Hey everyone, this is our fourth lesson on geometry support. Today we're going to be focused on solving two-step equations. Last time in lesson 3 we focused on solving one-step equations, so you should definitely do that lesson first before you move on to this one. But let's dive right in. So our goal is going to be to find the value of the variable in each of these equations below. So looking at question 1, I see here's my equal sign, which I know from last time means that everything on the right side has to be equal to everything on the left side. And last time we talked about finding the inverse operations to get rid of things. So I'm going to highlight here, I see two things happening to x. To me, I see first, like the first thing happening that's nearest, the most important thing is multiplication by 2. So x is definitely being multiplied by 2. So I'm making note of that here. So onto my x, it's getting multiplied by 2. And then I also see it's getting subtracted by 3. Minus 3. We'll change this to multiply by 2. So it's getting times by 2, multiplied by 2, and it's getting subtracted by 3. So to undo those steps, I want to get x by itself. So I need to undo these steps. So I'm going to work up the other way. First I picked out, it's being multiplied by 2, it's being subtracted by 3. I want to undo those things to get back to the start. So to invert this negative 3 here, to undo that, I need to plus 3. So I'm going to need to plus 3 to get rid of that. And then using my little map over here, I see I had to multiply by 2. Right here, I had this times 2. To undo that, I'm going to have to divide by 2. So by making this little table, I've kind of already set out the steps I'm going to need to take. I'm going to need to first add 3, then divide by 2. So let's see how that makes sense here. If I'm looking at this, for sure I want to get rid of this minus 3. So to undo it, I'm going to change this to a plus 3. Like we found before, I'm going to do the same to both sides of the equation. And I'm going to get 2x plus 3 minus 3 cancel. 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. Now, so we've done this step, check. The next step should be divide by 2. Let's make sure that makes sense. Looking here, yep, I'm being multiplied by 2. To undo that, I need to divide by 2. What I do to one side, make sure I do to both. X equals 3. All right. For example 2, this one looks kind of similar, except here I notice there's these parentheses. And what this is making me think is that actually what's happening first here, so I'm going to make another one of my tables. What's happening first here is that it's being subtracted by 3 first, and then afterward it's being multiplied by 2, right? Saying do what's inside the parentheses first. It's more important, then multiply by 2. So I'm going to make a note of what's happening. It's first being subtracted by 3, then the whole thing's being multiplied by 2. If I'm going to undo these like we did before, I'm going to undo these operations. It looks to me, if I do work from the bottom up like I think, I want to divide out 2 first, then I want to add on 3. Once I figured out what's happening to x first, going down this way, first is being subtracted, then multiplied. To undo it, I need to divide, then add. So if I divide these, first by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, that allows me, to nicely get rid of that 2 before we move on. And I get x minus 3 equal to negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Okay, so that takes care of our first step. Then our second step would be to add 3. Negative 1 plus 3, if I'm at negative 1, I need to add 3, 0, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it takes me to 2, positive 2. Now this isn't the only way we could have solved it. Notice we could have also distributed this 2. So if I rewrote this question down here, there's always more than one way to do these problems. That was one way to look at it. I could instead simplify this left side and distribute it out the 2 first to both that. Then I would be left with 2x minus 6 equal to negative 2. And then I'm going to look at this and say, well, first I have this negative 6 I need to get rid of, then I need to get rid of this 2. But if I solve it out, plus 6, undo that, it's going to be a positive 4, divide by 2, x equals 2. Doesn't matter which way we do it, you'll get the same thing. These problems just sort of continue. In 3, I see first thing happening is actually this plus 20 because it's all on top of this. The closest thing to the x is this add 20. Then we divide by 2. So I'd say first we're doing the plus 20, then divide by 5, So to undo that, to go back the other way, I would need to do a multiply by 5, then a subtract by 20. All right, let's just do those. Multiply by 5. Oops. Multiply by 5. All right, computer's slow. All right, change it there. Multiply by 5. Those cancel. I'm left with x plus 20 equal to 25. Then our next step says it should be subtract 20, so I'll subtract 20. That was make that disappear. X equals 25 minus 20. That's just 5 left over. Nice. Let's move on to example 4. See a couple things happening here. One, we're getting x is getting multiplied by 1/2, or we could see this as a divide by 2. So x is being divided by 2. It's also being subtracted, 4 is being taken away from it. So to undo it, to go back the other way, I'm going to want to add 4 and then multiply by 2. It's that little table we've been building to help us keep track. So I can just do those steps. Once I pick them out, I just do them. Plus 4, plus 4. Slide this over a little bit. That's going to give me 7 on the left, equals 1/2 x. And then the plus 4 and the minus 4 undo each other, so they're gone. Then I need to get rid of this 1/2, or this divide by 2, so I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. 7 times 2 is 14. The 2 and the 2 undo each other. We're just left with x times 1, which is just x. X is 14. All right, should pause the video at this point. Try these next 2 out on your own. They're pretty straightforward, and then check back in. I'm just going to write up the solutions, so when you're ready, restart the video and check yourself. All right, so I see here I'm being multiplied by 9 first, then added. So I need to undo that, so I'm going to subtract 9 from both. That gives me 0 equal to 9n. And if I want to solve for n, I need to divide out the 9, divide out the 9. Well, 0 divided by 9, that's just going to leave me with 0. So n is 0 in this case. Over here, I see there's a plus 8 happening on the outside. And then also there's a divide by -4. So to undo that, I'm going to multiply. Oh, I did this backwards. The first thing happening to be is the divide by -4 because it's attached right to it. It's more important than the add. Then there's the add 8. To undo it, I want to subtract 8, then multiply by -4. So this should leave me, all told, if I subtract 8, it's going to leave me b is going to, over -4 is equal to -3. Multiply, b is going to be +12. All right, on the back side, there's a quick check, 6 problems to try this out, and then you should rank how you feel, and then based on that, in class, either move on to mastery practice or take a second and go back through it with me. All right, see you next time.